Well, what a week. First week of the AFL finals. Alex Kayapa joins us on The Informer. Probably the tightest round they've ever seen in the AFL. The games were won and lost by just a matter of points, handful of points here and there. But what happened to your tips?
Look, I didn't have the greatest round, went 0 from 4. Just got to own it. I didn't have the guts to pick a couple of those tougher ones, but again, football shows it's a game of small margins, and we had those small margins.
Let's talk about those margins. Port Adelaide at home against a pretty good Geelong didn't quite get the response they wanted, the Cats.
Well, Port Adelaide really took control after half-time. They played the much better football. That's not to say, though, Geelong didn't play any good football, because they actually played some quite good football, and they shot themselves in the foot by bad execution. They kicked 5 goals, 12. As the saying goes, bad kicking's bad football. I don't think you'd expect a star like Tom Hawkins, who's Mr. Reliable in front of goal, kicking 0 goals, 5 and 1 out on the full.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd expect to see that too often, but you got to give full credit to Port Adelaide for that. They made Hawkins kick it in tough positions. They led him out to the boundary and made it as tough as possible. And again,
but that result means now that the Cats are up against it, whereas Port Adelaide gets the opportunity to have a bit of a break, but they also know that they've won a right to play another game in Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. So it's a huge plus for them. So big tick to Port Adelaide. Challenges now for the Cats. They are good enough to continue, but they've got to really play some of their very best football. And the other game that we saw, it was the Brisbane Lions at home against the current champions, the reigning Richmond side. It was a terrific game. Yeah,
that was arguably, until later on in the week, that was arguably game of the season. It was just so high paced, very high intensity. Brisbane, they wanted to make amends. They've broken an 11-year drought against the Tigers now, and it was really big for them. They've got a home prelim now, which is exactly what they wanted. Richmond, their ill discipline killed them. Too many 50-metre penalties, too many silly little free kicks at important moments. They just couldn't, as much as they get their chaos game going, and they actually played it pretty well. They just couldn't find that extra little thing, and Brisbane didn't allow them to get on top. Every time Richmond looked like they were going to make a run, Brisbane held their nerve perfectly and very deserved of that win.
So for Richmond now, they get a chance to play the Saints, who, by the way, did the right thing for all their fans, and there are a host of them around the country and around the world. Eric Banner, one, of course, who still celebrating the fact that they beat the Bulldogs. What happened to the Bulldogs?
Well, for 3 quarters, Bulldogs just didn't bring that energy, that sort of will that we've seen them have most of the season, and why they've gotten their wins and where they were. They didn't really step up to another notch until the 4th quarter, but by the time they did that, it was too late. St Kilda really pulled away in the 3rd quarter, and they never looked back after that.
But whenever you say that, I always concern myself, because we don't give enough credit to the opposition for holding them and for getting them to play at that level. So again, win. So for St Kilda, huge task. They have to take on a side that they struggle with, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Well, the funny thing is they actually beat them earlier in the season, and they actually did it quite comfortably.
But so did Port.
Exactly.
So did the Cats over Port. That didn't help them at this time of the year.
Yeah, no, it doesn't mean anything. Once those season games are out, finals football are a different story. And St Kilda this week, they lose their gun ruckman in Paddy Ryder due to injury. They lose one of their better backmen in Jake Carlisle. They've lost Ben Long now to suspension. So it's going to be tough goings for the Saints.
Brings us to the final game of that round of football, and what a game it is. And there is no truth in the rumour that Eddie Maguire is still singing in front of the television the Collingwood theme song.
No, that game, as I said before, we had the Brisbane and Richmond game. That was probably the best game, and then all of a sudden the West Coast and Collingwood game took it to another notch.
You never saw that, did you?
I don't think anyone would have seen that coming. All week, under quarantine, suffering some of the hardest conditions, being labelled the dirty pies by the WA media, and they come out and provide one of the gutsiest wins, and arguably...
So what was the difference?
It was just all heart. You could just see it. Once you get to finals, all your game plans and all that come into effect, but the heart comes into it more, and you could see they were out to prove something, Collingwood, and they showed it.
Will you remember that when you do your tips?
I will remember that.
Okay, so it brings us to the this week's round of matches, and they're basically two. There's the one coming up on Friday night, and that's the one being played between St Kilda and Richmond. And then there's the game on the Saturday, and it's the Cats up against Collingwood. Now, I'm only going to ask you once, who do you reckon is going to win the first game, and who's going to win the second? Go on.
I think
The
Richmond.
whole season's on this.
I know. I go Richmond in the first one. I think they've got enough experience there that the premiership experience should come in favour this week. They know they need to win.
So you've just brushed away all the Saints fans.
Not trying to brush them away, but I just think Richmond will be too much.
And the second game?
And the second game, you know what? I'm going to be brave here.
Oh.
Collingwood have gone very well against Geelong as of recent. They've won the last 2 times against them. I think this could be the time to go brave and go Collingwood with this one.
So there you go. All right. So Alex Kayafa giving you the lowdown. Also explained why he missed out last week. Let's hope he's picked up and learned something. Alex Kayafa on The Informer. Thank you, mate.
Thanks, George.